talking about anxiety is easier than dealing with it. You know, anxiety is just not fair. It's a paradoxical kind of thing. So here's the thing I want to tell you most about anxiety. The most terrible thing that happens when people have anxiety is they feel dumb. Because part of their rational mind says there's no reason to be anxious. And in fact, their friends and other people will just as much say as much. They'll say things like, oh, don't be silly, which translates into how dumb are you? So you feel really dumb, but it's something you can't control. So there's two things you need to know if you're dealing with anxiety. One, you are absolutely right. It is a biological, physiological brain reaction. When your lower brain, the limbic system, the emotional brain, perceives a threat, even if it was a threat that happened years ago or some association, it automatically goes into fight or flight. It is hardwired in your brain that the cortex, for a good 30 to 40 seconds, which sounds short unless you're in a dentist chair or experience anxiety, in those seconds the cortex cannot override the limbic system. So this is what you need to know. It's going to be a biological, natural reaction. And there's no way to stop it. There's a way to manage it, control it, and not let it scare you. We sometimes say, don't let your symptoms scare you. It's like, okay, here comes that darn anxiety again. I got it. I hate it. I got it. As opposed to, oh, what's going to happen next? So that's the first thing, is the biology. The second is the fact that anxiety is future-based. You're looking at what could possibly happen, and the thinking is called catastrophizing. Isn't that a great term? You're thinking of all the possible catastrophes that could happen. Now, here's the paradox. The almost cruel paradox about anxiety is that the more anxiety you have, the dumber you feel. Okay? Stick with me for a minute here. But in terms of anticipating possible catastrophes, the smarter you are, the more catastrophes, the more creative you can think. So in fact, the brighter you are, the more likely you can have anxieties. And that they'll be, oh, it's really scary. That's so unfair, isn't it? So, if you have some anxiety, number one, it probably means you're awfully bright. And number two, it means you can learn some coping skills to lower the reaction. But you can't turn it off. That just means you're biologically highly evolved and probably would have survived a lot better than the people who never had fear way back when. There are some things you can do to help when you have some anxiety. So let me give you a couple of quick tips. First of all, remember acceptance. This is a biological reaction. You don't have to fight against yourself. As a matter of fact, fighting is an up, anxious response. Relaxation is a lower one. So I'm not telling you to relax, because you can't relax yet. I know that. But don't fight it if you can. So here's a few things to do. When the biology kicks in, it will take about a minute or two for the wave to go up and then down. And that's what happens. Waves go up and down. If you can, as it were, live through it till it comes down, you won't set it off again. This is like a fire alarm. So when things get set off, boom, something happens. You're anxious. Here's a couple of things to do. Okay, first thing you can do is breathing. Now, whenever you tell someone that, they start by going, breathing in. No, that's not what I mean. Research has found that breathing in activates your sympathetic or up system. You've got that going. What we want is your down, your parasympathetic system, and that's the breathing out. The idea of out breath with counting is the first thing I recommend. Breathing out to a count of 4 or 5, 4 times. I'm giving you a ritual because if you have something specific to do in a specific structure, it does two things. Biologically, the breathing out, the sitting still, helps your body calm down. Brain-wise, if you're focusing on counting, you can't be catastrophizing. Catastrophizing is the term we use when you think of all the catastrophes that could happen. And that's a natural reaction to stress. So I'm giving you, in essence, a diversion, like we did when our kids were young. So slow breathing out is the first one. The second is if you're in a position or a place where you can move, doing some walking is excellent. Count your steps. 3 steps out, touch your foot down 3 times, 3 steps back. Are you seeing a pattern here? Counting with something to do that's physical. You can't fight your brain with your brain. You can fight your brain with your body. So having something physical to do that has a structure. There's one more idea for you. And this is going to sound silly, so hang in here with me. I want you to take your hand and take your other finger as if when you were a kid. Remember tracing your hand? Okay. Follow it through. You see you can do this in your lap, behind your back, but you have to pay attention and follow through. How silly is this? But you know what I'm talking about now. What are we having you do? You're sitting still. You're focusing. It only takes a little bit of focus to do this, but you know, that's all you can focus on when you have stress. You're focusing, and you're getting through the amount of time it takes for the biology to do its thing. By the time you've traced your whole hand, you're able to breathe again. And once you can start breathing and feel settled, then your brain will come back, the thinking part of your brain. Here's the reminder I really want you to know. When stress hits, an anxiety attack, something out of the blue, you don't have a choice. The cortex, the thinking part of your brain, is automatically dysfunctioned so that your limbic system, your reaction, your fight and flight can take over. Mother doesn't want you analyzing. Mother wants you reacting. So for about 30 to 40 seconds, you don't have a choice. This is your coping device. This. Breathing. Any kind of movement. How about this one? Counting, sitting still, and focusing. That can get you through. After that, then you can make decisions again.